Hi, my name's Peggy Shoestick. I have an 8-year-old son, Andrew, and Andrew has been training at the Fit Lab since April of 2013. When Andrew started kindergarten, he'd done preschool. When he started kindergarten, the teacher had addressed an issue that he was a little behind in reading. So I got him some reading tutors along the way throughout kindergarten, and in first grade they had expressed issues also. So we had reading tutors in place, and he read every night at home, and his reading did not improve at all over a 2-year time span.
Visual issues and vestibular issues, they can be common in adults, but they can really affect a child.
I could not figure out for the life of me what was going wrong. I mean, he had the schooling, he was in private school, he had, he was in school all of the time. He just was not picking up the reading. At the end of the first grade year, they had recommended that he not go to first grade, which was completely unacceptable to me simply due to reading. I found out when he started second grade, he was reading at a kindergarten level. Children beginning the second grade school year should be reading approximately 78 words a minute, and Andrew started second grade reading 13 words a minute.
Now imagine what you see and what your brain is interpreting are two totally different things. It can affect your reading, your writing, your coordination, your balance, how you move.
He's not the most athletic child. We actually enrolled him in a soccer league, which is the point where I really started to pay attention to his physical behavior. There were several instances where he was the only child back in a certain position by himself, and the ball would be kicked to him, and he would run as if he were going to kick it, and he would run right over the ball and then kick it later. And so I thought, there's definitely something wrong. I mean, there was there were no kids guarding him, no one fighting for the ball. He simply, on his own, ran over the ball and then kicked and completely missed it.
When you're trying to learn something new and you're not good at it because it's difficult, what happens? Right, it's not enjoyable. You don't like to do it. So what if everything you tried learning was difficult?
There was a point where he didn't want to go to school. He asked to be homeschooled. He didn't want to play any sports. He knew that, running and jumping and stuff, he wasn't like the other kids. Reading, his teacher never called on him in class. They just skipped right over him. So, I mean, he was very, very much aware by the end of first grade that he was not performing as expected.
Perfect, got it?
Yes.
How you feel?
Dizzy.
Feel dizzy?
Yeah.
What time did you start to feel dizzy? When did you start to feel dizzy?
At the end, when it got at the end of the letters.
Okay.
And I think he was embarrassed. He was completely embarrassed. He didn't ever want to read out loud. He didn't want to, he became a little shyer. He didn't want to try new things. If some of the kids in the neighborhood would say, let's jump rope, or something, he would just say, I don't want to go outside, and he'd stay inside. Unfortunately, I think it diminished his self-esteem a lot because he became embarrassed and he didn't really want to do anything.
How did it make you feel?
Oh my gosh, it is heartbreaking. I mean, I would lay in bed and cry. I'm very active and have always been, and I can't even begin to realize what my own son was feeling because he couldn't do it. A girlfriend of mine had said that her son was having some issues training wise in sports, so they put him in some strength and agility camps. So I asked James if there would ever be an option for me to maybe get Andrew in the gym for some of that training, if that was even up, his cup of tea. And James said to speak to Peter, and amazing.
Peggy came into the gym one day and she and I started talking. We were talking about different things and the subject of her son came up. We started talking about the difficulties he was having with schoolwork and with athletics, and some of the work he was currently doing with some therapists and some doctors. After talking for a little while and hearing the details about it, I knew there was something that we could do for him, something different that we could do for him.
When James introduced me to Peggy and she brought Andrew in to see me for the first time, I could tell right away that there was something going on visually. He didn't like to make eye contact. His eyes just seemed to be all over the place. He just seemed shy and introverted. She had told me that Andrew had been in occupational therapy for 5 months at the time. He had seen doctors and they really couldn't figure out what was going on, but had hinted toward the fact that he may have some vestibular issues. And the visual system and your vestibular work very closely together.
I have noticed he's not as tired anymore at home. He does play and he'll go nonstop like little boys should. As far as home, his reading, he started second grade reading 13 words a minute. He had gone up to, I think they said 33 words a minute. And since he's been training for not even 90 days, his reading has went from 33 words a minute to almost 87 words a minute. His writing has improved threefold. I never imagined, and I used to chalk it up to, he's a little boy, he writes sloppy. Not the case. After training, his confidence has grown, he's getting his self-esteem back, and he actually loves being active. He's up and about and he enjoys it.
Andrew's been working really hard. He comes in 3 days a week and his progress has been great. And for Peggy, I could see the relief on her face as she watches Andrew get better.
Right, and I think as a parent, you try to feed them that positive encouragement and put on a happy face, because you don't want them to know that they're having such a tough time. And even scarier than that is not knowing why they're having a tough time. I mean, it's heartbreaking. And to actually find this solution, I've seen a good kid become great just in a short time frame. And it's, I mean, I love it. It is absolutely, I don't completely understand all of the inner workings, but as long as he's growing and improving, I don't have to understand. I just want to watch it and be along for the ride.
Andrew's done really well. And what we're doing here, it's not magic. It's not physical therapy or any other kind of therapy. It's strength training. And what has worked for 8-year-old Andrew has worked for elite level adult athletes to help build incredible strength and speed. What makes what we're doing in here so different is we're teaching kids how to learn properly. Kids learn in here that they don't have to be embarrassed because they're not immediately good at whatever they're trying to learn.
90 right, go.
And when you see the
90
light
left,
bulb
go.
go off, when they finally get it, whatever it is that they're trying to learn at that moment, and you see their facial expression change, that's priceless. That's why I love what I do.
Seriously, you don't know how hard it's been. You know, you have a child and your child doesn't have issues, you know? But as a parent who's never had issues and knows, and it's so hard to admit, you know, I mean, you see it, you just don't want to face it. And you have to at some point, or it's I mean, if I hadn't have said, okay, you know, we got to do something. I honestly believe that he'd hate school. He wouldn't want to go. He'd be embarrassed. He'd have no self-esteem. And just by bringing him here to you and the support and training that you've provided him, I have a whole new kid. I do, and I love it. Love it.